Hello, Joe here from Infiniti of Tacoma. Today I'm going to tell you about this lovely 2018 Tesla Model 3 long-range rear-wheel drive that we have for sale. This was a local one-owner clean Carfax vehicle. It was actually recently traded in at Tesla. They don't really sell that many used Teslas. The few that they do sell, they're like certified pre-owned. They have to be pretty much pristine condition for them to keep them. A lot of the other trade-ins, they sell at the auctions where dealerships like us can buy them. So that's how I acquired this one. Tesla was selling this recent trade-in at the auction. We purchased it. I've bought in a lot of nice trade-ins for Tesla. Tesla's so busy selling new Teslas, they really don't want to mess with used cars that much. So the Tesla Model 3 long range is kind of a unique model because they don't make it anymore. It was actually the first version of the Model 3 that was released, but now if you want to get a long range version of the Model 3, it has to be dual motors. So they used a motor in the front and a motor in the back to make them all-wheel drive. So this has a single motor in the back, making it rear-wheel drive. But the caveat, I don't know if it's a caveat, it's the right word to use, but I guess the one perk of having the rear-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive is you get longer range. This has an EPA rated range of 325 miles, where comparably the all-wheel drive long range I think is about 310 to 315 miles in 2018. Obviously on the newer Model 3s, you know, every year the range is tend to increase. For instance, the 2022 long range now has a range I think of 357 miles. Tesla's always improving these vehicles, but even by brand new electric cars from anyone else besides Tesla, I don't think there really is another manufacturer, you know, aside from Lucid, which is very limited production, but almost everyone else doesn't really have a vehicle that can go over 300 miles. So it's still pretty good for a 2018 battery electric vehicle. And this is an amazing vehicle. We've had a lot of Teslas. I try to keep these videos short, but there's so much information, and Teslas are just so different than, you know, every other car on the road. There's just so much to cover. There's so much to talk about these vehicles just because they're so different, they're so fresh. There's just so much that that needs to get discussed. So I'll try to make it as quick as possible. So a lot of people ask about full self-driving. It's possible to have the full self-driving on this one. You do have to make some hardware upgrades. This has the old Autopilot computer. So you have two options. If you purchase this Tesla and you want to get full self-driving capability, you can subscribe to it for $200 a month through your in-app purchase, but you do have to pay a $1,000 upfront cost of having upgraded Autopilot computer installed. So $1,000 you get a brand new Autopilot computer that's capable of handling the FSD software, and then $200 a month to subscribe to FSD. Or if you just want to pay a lump sum of $10,000, you can have the full self-driving, and that will include the upgraded computer. You bring it to Tesla and they'll pop in a new computer for you. But I can tell you, you know, as awesome as the FSD is, it's still in beta, and it might actually be another year or two before you can actually have a car that will be fully self-driving. The people that are using the beta version of FSD, the car is driving autonomously, but it's in beta, so sometimes it can act almost like a drunk driver. You have to intervene, you have to pay attention, you have to keep your hand in the wheel and pay attention at all times. It's not at the point yet where you can not pay attention. But what this does have that is standard and pretty amazing is the Autopilot. The Autopilot has auto steer. That's also in beta, but it's come a lot longer than the FSD. They've had the Autopilot for a long time and it works great. So Autopilot gives you adaptive cruise control, so it moves with the flow of traffic, and then the auto steer keeps you centered in your lane, so it can steer you in your lane. It can follow gentle bends like on the highway and roads. The Autopilot is really designed to be used on the highway, but I can pop up a video of me using the Autopilot in the back road. It's not FSD. This is a video of me just using the regular Autopilot in a Tesla like this. So you do have to understand though, if you do have it in Autopilot, you have to slow the vehicle down. So if you're on a 40-mile-an-hour back road and then all of a sudden a 10-mile-an-hour hairpin corner comes up, the vehicle's not going to slow down. So those are situations where people using Autopilot, you can get yourself in trouble. So please, when you use these features, they do make the vehicle a lot safer. They are amazing, but you do have to pay attention. I really like them. Good story. We had to purchase a vehicle up in Issaquah, And whenever I have to go on a long trip, drive in inclement weather as dark and rainy, and drive on the highway and stop and go traffic, I always will take a Tesla with Autopilot if we have it in stock. And rush hour traffic, pouring down rain, dark, I drove from Issaquah to Puyallup, where I live. I didn't have enough time to make it back home, so I took this home, and it did amazing. Basically, you know, on these back roads and stuff like that, I'm sitting here, I'm paying attention, but it's driving itself. It's steering, it's handling the braking, acceleration. I'm just paying attention, waiting to intervene. It was doing this on back roads, and it was doing on the highway. I really get stressed out on the highway, and I can tell you, just having the Autopilot on, it really relieves a whole layer of stress for me, having that. So I'm kind of like a supervisor. I'm sitting here paying attention, but the car is doing the work for me, and I can tell you it really makes a big difference. And I can only imagine when I get to the point of having full self-driving. I think Tesla will be the first to do it, because they have 1 million cars on the road right now collecting data, constantly improving this full self-driving hardware. No one else is really doing that. So I could be wrong, this is just my opinion, but I think they'll be the first to crack it. In fact, I was almost thinking about ordering a Tesla myself, a new one, with the full self-driving hardware, because when the full self-driving comes out, I might just buy one and just let it operate 24/7 as a robo-taxi, making me money, because I think when the Autopilot is out of beta, I don't think the full self-driving is out of beta, I don't think you'll be able to buy it anymore. It'll just be a subscription-based service. But that's a whole different story. So let's talk about more about this vehicle. So charging is very easy. You have an extensive supercharger network. We have premium connectivity. When you get this Tesla, you'll get a 30-day trial for premium connectivity. It gives you Google Maps. Basically, it's a cell phone transponder. I think it's a LTE cell phone transponder, so you can stream internet. So, for instance, if you're at the Tesla charger, it's about 45 minutes for a full charge, not that long. The Tesla superchargers are amazing. No other electric car charging network comes close to the Tesla supercharger. So if you're going to road trip, you got to get a Tesla. I've heard stories like, for instance, someone bought a non-Tesla brand new electric vehicle on the East Coast, and they drive from Massachusetts to New York City. They can't do it. There's no charging infrastructure. They have to stop at a hotel, or there's really no charging. Where Teslas, there's a charging network everywhere. So you stop at the supercharger, you can watch Netflix, Disney, Hulu, you can play video games. The video games are pretty cool. Even this driving game is amazing. You can actually use the controls for the steering wheel and the gas pedal to play the game. Pretty cool stuff. So finding supercharging is very easy. You can use the car's navigation system. So these are slow chargers. So these slow chargers are not going to be a supercharging situation. So these slow chargers are like destination charging, like at a hotel. So you go to the Hotel Murano, you plug your Tesla in, it charges at 13 kilowatts. So by the next morning you'll have a full charge. It's not going to charge you in 45 minutes. But that's better for the battery, because you don't want to supercharge it as much as possible. Then they have like level 2 charging. But then to get the full meal deal supercharging, you can find them all here. And look at, there's one in Federal Way, there's one in Auburn. They're all over the place. And it's really convenient and really amazing supercharging network. It's really kind of blows my mind all the time about these vehicles. I've been in the car business, 25 years, and really this is kind of like an automotive breath of fresh air. These cars kind of really make me excited. I love cars, but cars tend to, compared to something like this, seem to be all kind of similar. They kind of blend in, they all kind of seem to look alike, but this is completely so different than everything else. Operating the vehicle through the touchscreen is fairly easy. It's like using an iPad. You can adjust a lot of settings there. All right, I'm already going too long in this video. I knew this was going to happen. So we got the blue on black interior. So the way Tesla works is any color besides white is going to be an extra cost. So this blue was an extra $1,000. This one also has the upgraded 19-inch sport wheels. That was also an extra $1,000. So that has $2,000 options right there. So in 2018, the specs on the Model 3, EPA rating of 325 miles. Top speed 140 miles an hour, 0 to 60 right in around 5 seconds. So this is definitely a performance automobile. And even though this is considered a compact, look at all this interior space. I'm 6'2". I had that front seat adjusted for my height, plenty of interior room. A big part of why this thing has so much interior space is that the floor is completely flat. We don't have an engine, we don't have a drive shaft going through the middle, we don't have a transmission, so it makes it very flat and on the floor, making the interior space very, very much improved for a vehicle this size. And with the weight of the battery is very low in the Tesla, that also gives it a very low center of gravity, so that benefits you in two ways. For one, it improves the handling, because with such a low center of gravity, this thing just has no body roll, it sticks to the ground. And then it has an extremely low rollover risk. This is pretty much probably the least likely vehicle to have a rollover incident, just because of the weight of the batteries. The batteries weigh so much, and they keep them so low in the vehicle. Remember you had those clowns that you'd punch, and they had the weights in the bottle, those blow up clowns, and they just keep on, you know, popping back up? Well, Teslas are kind of the same way. You can watch these videos of them doing the rollover test, and they'll kind of go over on their roof, and they'll kind of almost look like they'll roll over, but the weight of the batteries will just kind of pop them right up. It's almost like having a sailboat with a big heavy keel. It just, you can't knock it down. I really like the looks and lines of the Model 3. It's kind of minimalist looking, but it's really kind of grown on me, that kind of cool wedge shape. I've really come to appreciate it greatly. And the nice thing too, without having an engine in the front, you have an additional storage. They call it a frunk. And this does not only benefit you space-wise, but this also benefits you safety-wise, because since you don't have an engine in here, this is just one giant crumple zone. So this is actually one of the safest vehicles on the road. You know, it has a crumple zone 60% larger than a internal combustion engine vehicle. The Model 3 has one of the lowest probability of injuries in an accident out of any vehicle to drive on the road. And then, as much as people scare you about batteries catching fire, well, try an experiment. Take a 9-volt battery and put a lighter than that, and take some gasoline and put a lighter than that, and see how easy it is to catch either one on fire. You know, thousands of gas cars catch on fire every day, but it doesn't make the news. One Tesla catches on fire and it's all over the news. I can assure you, an electric car, fire-wise, is going to be a lot safer than a car with, a gas tank full of 20 gallons of gasoline. That's just, that's just the way it is. And then as far as batteries goes, let's talk about how long batteries last, because that's also a concern I hear from customers. We just sold a Tesla. I'm like, well, when am I going to have to replace the batteries? Well, you're never going to have to replace the batteries unless they're defective. There is an extensive warranty. I think it's 8 years, 120,000 miles on the battery and drive units. But Tesla's been making electric car batteries a lot longer than pretty much anyone else. So it's pretty much common consensus. It's not fact, but it's consensus by a lot of automotive experts that Tesla's about 5 to 10 years ahead of everyone else with battery technology. They use lithium-ion batteries. Lithium-ion batteries last a very long time. There's Teslas on the road today that have 400,000 or 500,000 miles. So they're pretty confident now that if you take care of your Tesla, you could get 500,000 to 1,000,000 miles potentially out of your batteries and drive units. Pretty amazing. And as far as battery degradation goes, on average it's about 1% a year. So a vehicle's 20 years old, 200,000 miles, your battery's going to be at 80% instead of 100%. Not too bad. You take a gas car that's 20 years old, 200,000 miles, this might not be firing on all cylinders. In fact, it might be leaking oil, it might have emissions control system problems, it might need catalytic converters, it might need spark plugs, it might be dripping coolant. It's just, these are so simple. You have so much fewer moving parts on this vehicle versus a gas car. A gas car has thousands of moving parts, where this has like 20 or 30 moving parts. There's so much less to go wrong on a vehicle like this than a complex internal combustion engine with emission control systems and all that stuff. Oil, gas, coolant, far simpler. So you'll save on gasoline costs. Gas is very expensive. Even supercharging is more expensive, but the supercharging rates compared to what you pay for gas are less expensive. And then when you charge your vehicle at home, it'll be even cheaper. Luckily, here in the Pacific Northwest, since we get a lot of our power from hydroelectric, our electricity rates are often cheaper than a lot of other people in the United States. So you're going to save on gas, you're going to save on maintenance costs. Really a great vehicle. Hopefully I covered everything. I didn't go too long. It's about 15 minutes. But awesome vehicles. I'm a big Tesla fanboy. I'm also a big Infiniti fan. I love cars in general. I'm a career car guy. I've been with Infiniti and Nissan 20 years. I own 2 Infinitis myself. I have 4 cars. I have lots of cars. And I do want to get a Tesla. One day I will have a Tesla too. But luckily, with my job as a used car manager, I get to buy and sell these things and play with them and learn about them. So I've had the opportunity to experience many different Teslas, older ones, newer ones, the Y, the S, the X. I'm excited to see some of the newer products coming out. Thanks so much for watching this video. Hope to see you soon and have a wonderful day.